What was there a black market for at your school that wasn't drugs? They got rid of the soda machines at my high school, which caused the students to get really pee. A buddy of mine bought a bunch of 12 packs of store brand sodas for $3 each and a huge cooler. He showed up the very next day after they removed the machines and charged $1 per soda. The demand was insane and he sold out each day right when lunch started. The staff got pee and stopped allowing him to bring the cooler, so instead, he brought a huge gym bag that he claimed he needed for PE class and filled it with sodas. He couldn't keep up with the demand, so he cut another guy in and had him carry a gym bag too. Years after he graduated, his sister attended the same high school and someone asked her if her brother was the soda guy. He had become a legend just that fast, lol. Our lunch ladies would force everyone to take a milk at lunch because of some law that said students had to have a certain amount of calories, vitamins, whatever. There was a kid at my school who would go around and collect any unwanted milks and redistribute them to other kids who wanted more milk or missed out on chocolate milk. He was like Milk Robin Hood. I used to sell quesadillas at school. My mom would make them right before lunch and then drop them off in a black Nike duffel bag. She would make about 30-40 quesadillas for about $20 and sell them for $4 EA. Your mom is part of a cartel. Rocks. In elementary school there were a lot rocks in the outdoor play area, and we would collect and trade the rocks that looked the coolest. None of us had money at the time, so we occasionally traded toys for rocks as well. They're minerals. A friend and I created a black market in plain sight. A couple of friends in the marching band gave us their fundraiser boxes after they sold their candy. We bought bulk candy and sold it in class, and not a single teacher questioned our fundraiser. Greed brought us down. We tried to make a pyramid scheme where we sold candy kits to recruits, but one of the recruits lost his kit and wanted his money back. He threatened to snitch, so we shut the whole thing down. Soda. Students used to be able to get into the unlocked teacher's lounge and get sodas from the machine, but one day they decided to switch out all the sodas with weird healthier alternatives. One kid decided to fill his entire locker with boxes of cans of sodas and start selling them. Some teachers bought from him too. I was in band in middle school, and the teacher's lounge was unlocked before school when we rehearsed. It had candy and soda, which was off limits to students. I used to buy it without markup for my friends, and twice as much for other people. The teachers even caught me a few times. I would just mutter, "So that's what the teacher lounge looks like," and walk out. Never got in trouble. Back in middle school I sold gum and ended up having to hire people to keep up with demand. Gum wasn't allowed on campus and my business got so big that the school actually ended up changing its rule and allowed gum in order to put my business out of business, when in reality it just boosted my customer base because more kids wanted gum. Salt packets. Healthy eating rules have removed literally all the salt from our food at school. It all tastes like ass, so people steal packets from McDonald's and sell them at school for a profit. Our school banned salt too. Once we started using salt packets from places like Sonic, the school had a teacher patrol during lunch and make sure no one was adding salt. I rigged a ballpoint pen to hold and dispense salt discreetly. Worked like a charm. In 7th grade a kid went on vacation and came back with a big pile of those crappy plastic Mardi Gras bead necklaces. He gave one to every kid in the class. It was probably about 5 minutes before the first one was broken, sending beads spilling all over the floor. It was soon discovered that beads made the perfect little projectile, and every kid had their own ammunition. Thus began the bead wars. Every time the teacher turned to face the board, beads would fly across the classroom. If you weren't alert, beads would get pinged off your head, and might even catch you in the eye. Rulers and elastic bands were turned into bead catapults. Books and binders became shields. A friend of mine even used the spring mechanism in a stapler to engineer it into a bead shotgun. Efforts were made to confiscate the beads after Cody hit the teacher with a bead. The efforts failed. Kids had secret bead stashes, and the beads were too small to round up every last one. The war lasted for weeks. As ammunition ran low, kids began throwing pencils and erasers. The fun ended when a girl was hit in the head with a dictionary and went crying to the teacher. The whole class got detention and was assigned a crap load of extra homework. For the rest of the year though, every once in a while, you would occasionally hear the distinctive tap, 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 tap of a thrown bead bouncing to a stop. This is one of the more interesting ones. Back in the late 90s, the internet was still new, and Columbine hadn't happened yet. It was cool to be a revolutionary terrorist. You were supposed to stand against the government because the government was hiding things from you, like aliens. We traded in floppy disks that had text documents with terrorist manuals on them, bomb making guides and whatnot. The most edgy of the edgelords actually printed out those long rambling messes and carried them around in 3-ring binders. I too once downloaded the Anarchist Cookbook. It was the edgy late 90s kid thing to do. Monster Energy drink. When I was in high school we went through Michelle Obama's Healthy Kids Act transition. As a freshman we had all kinds of pop and chips and junk food, but by senior year they had slowly weaned out everything unhealthy from the vending machines and cafeteria. The computer design teacher began selling monsters to students. He would buy them by the case and sell them $2 a pop and turn a pretty good profit. There was always a line out the door to his room in the mornings. He got caught and was forced to stop. That lasted like 2 months. He started selling them again, but this time us students were real secretive so it didn't get taken away again. Yeah, Michelle's plan was a major fail. Our school started serving healthier foods, but a lot of kids just threw it away and ate Little Debbie snacks from home. Michelle arguably made things worse. Only seniors were allowed off-campus lunch. As seniors, we would go to Little Caesars, get $4 5 hot and ready pizzas and sell them at $3 a slice. We'd get a $19 profit per pizza. We did this normally twice a week. Wonder if this is why my high school suddenly started selling Papa John's pizza at some point while I went. Broadband internet became a thing when I was in 7th grade. Me and about 2 or 3 other kids were the first ones to get it. We immediately capitalized off the early days of piracy. We were also some of the first kids with CD burners, DVD burners in our PCs. This was like 1999 to 2000. Buddy A specialized in music. He would burn you any CD you wanted for $25 per song. Buddy B specialized in games. $5 per game, provided he could find an ISO and a crack for it. Movies were my specialty, but I never charged since I was convinced digital movie piracy would get me laid in HS. A buddy and I had a similar setup in HS for PS1 games. I was the only kid in the area with a CD burner. He loved PS1 games. He would rent them steadily and I would copy them. He got a copy for disc cost and I got my inventory increased. The downside was the 2x tray load CD burner. It took over an hour per disc and if you didn't turn off the screensaver you ended up with an expensive coaster. We had a time in school where people bought cheap electric fly swatters and snapped the main part off but left 2 little wires coming out of the handle. Little tasers for $5. Used to use electric grill lighters. The concept is the same. Marbles were really big for like a year in elementary school. There were people setting up variations of shoot down this marble pyramid with your marble and each try cost the marble you threw. And winning would mean you took the marbles from the pyramid. Then there were the Chinese marbles. I don't even know if they actually are Chinese, but they were flat and fancy and had an exchange rate of like 21. Using a Chinese marble in a game was basically showing off. Eventually our marble-based economy died out in favor of football card and other fads. Little economies and cultures like this are so fascinating to me. Bootleg hip-hop tapes. I'm talking 86ish in rural Oxfordshire. I was the man because I had a load of these tapes an older acquaintance had made for me. Cool Modi, Imzi Shan, Roxanne Shante, BDP, etc etc. One particular tape got copied so much it's untrue. Hooked up with my wife in our 30s, like 12 years or so ago. When she moved her stuff into my place she found an old tape and got excited telling me this was her hip hop tape from back in the day. She put it on, and it was a copy of my freaking mix. BTW, she doesn't believe me at all. I believe you, man. I used to sell high quality pens for triple and quadruple the price. Things like the Uniball and the V5 were money makers. This was in grade school. I'd pack my pens in a pouch and everyone knew I had pens, so when they asked I'd let them sift through the pens in class and then collect the $sign that they left in the pouch. I read that first sentence incorrectly. I spend way too much time on Reddit : No passwords. A few kids would get access to certain accounts and it would then be shared by about 40 teenage guys. Man, I found out the account I was using on Bangbris was used by like thousands of other dudes. The day it got banned I was on Twitter and saw a bunch of people saying RIP to the username. I forgot what it was, but it was freaking hilarious to find out a bunch of other people shared this one account. TLDR. Cane insurance. Not my story, but my dad's. My dad went to a small primary school, ages 5 to 12, in the north of Scotland, with a headmaster who dearly loved corporal punishment and doled it out with reckless abandon. His weapon of choice was a cane, and he used it to whip the kids over the knuckles for small infractions, the back of the legs for more serious crimes, and the bare buttocks if you did something truly awful. One of the lads at school started selling cane insurance. You paid your money in every term, and should you get caned you got a portion of money back as damages. Apparently he made quite a killing until some of the hardier kids took to deliberately misbehaving when they needed cash. When my dad told me this story I asked him if he knew what became of the insurance agent, investment banker, businessman, accountant. He became a minister for the Church of Scotland. Dried fish. No jokes. It was in a boarding school for boys, and as you might know teenage boys are always hungry. So in 8th grade this dude miraculously finds a few boxes of dried fish. In this environment this is basically unlimited power. For 2 weeks he was our Pablo Escobar. After the first 2 days dried fish became our currency. You're out of toilet paper? Tough luck. Bring out your fish. Need help with homework? Better have some fish. It's amazing how we establish the system in mere days. I went to high school in Alabama. The smoking age in Alabama is 19. We lived about 40 miles away from the Florida border where the smoking age is 18. Once I turned 18, I became a cigarette and dip smuggler. Sweets and Capri Sun, as we were not allowed those on our school campus, so I just created my first gummy bear cartel until a teacher found out. The best thing, we just gave him a weekly free pack of gummy bears so he would look away. TLDR. I have had my own candy cartel. I knew a guy who lived in the ghetto who provided a significant portion of his household income selling penny candy at school. He'd bring a large duffel bag and sell it all by lunch, then leave. From middle school until they expelled him for selling candy in high school. Now he has a roadside fruit veg stand. When I was in elementary school, I held a gambling ring that mostly revolved around good stationery. We were stupid. Stationery. Condoms. Guys I went to school with were too scared to go to the store and buy them. I would buy the largest packs I could and sell them for $1 a pop. Code word mints. You're the plug mayo. Girl Scout cookies. Thin mints were a serious form of currency. And still is. And should be. I am pretty sure you could entice a large segment of the soccer mom population to do your bidding with a sleeve of that dark chocolate minty gold. I'm in California. My uncle visited from out of state and brought a couple bricks of firecrackers and a whole bunch of small bottle rockets. It was nothing fancy. Those 2 items are not allowed in California, so they were a novelty. I sold the firecrackers at 2 packs for $5. They were small packs. The bottle rockets were 3 for $10. I made a lot of money that year. Then my dad noticed they were gone. He was mad that I didn't split the profit, but didn't hit me because he thought it was a pretty good hustle. A boy I had been selling to found a way to take over being the supplier. Luckily, I never got caught. I can't imagine what would have happened. Also, I graduated in 1993, so this was about 1991. There was no social media and whatnot for proof. I was a quiet, not too popular but decently liked white girl. I played stupid really well. Candy necklaces. When I was in middle school, people would buy them at the store for 10 cents each, and then sell them at school for 50 cents each. I never understood how that market worked, since they weren't exactly an illicit item. Back before PCs were quite as ubiquitous, I used to take people's report cards home, scan them, edit them with better grades, and print them off. $25 a pop. Lasted a good 2 months. Then some pansy butt little B got caught by his mom and ratted me out. I got suspended. And you know the real B of it is, every kid I gave one to I'd be like, look, you're probably gonna get caught eventually. This is kind of impossible to maintain. I'm really only buying you some time. If you rat me out I'm gonna punch you in the frickin' head or something along those lines. And I had every intention of punching that pansy butt little bee in the fricking head, but he was such a pansy butt little bee that while I was on suspension, he begged his mom to let him change schools and I never saw him again. His parents should have let him take his butt whipping to teach him a lesson. You sought out a self-proclaimed immoral person and paid him to do some immoral crap that you couldn't do. And when you got caught, you sold that immoral person down the river. And hey, I get it. It's all part of the game. And the risk we badasses take when we do some dirty rotten crap. But to run off like a little bee with your tail between your legs because you can't afford to reap what you've sown. Well, all I got to say is, you can hide from me, but the reflection in the mirror is going to follow you everywhere you go. He could have caught and butt whipping and learned a valuable lesson. Instead he has to live his life knowing deep down he is a pansy butt little bee. Man, nearly 20 years later and I'm still a little salty. My brother was the smartest student when he was a kid. When he was in elementary school he already had ran a business in our neighborhood. My mom was a real estate agent at the time and we would fold her signs so she could mail them to clients. For every sign we folded, they would give $1. However, my brother was bringing in hundreds of dollars weekly when he was only 10 years old. He had at least 5 kids from the neighborhood in our basement folding signs during the day. He would pay them $0.25 and would keep $0.75 for himself. For doing nothing, he was making 75% of profits due to his mini business. Weeks later, my parents realized what was happening and cut him off even though I think they were secretly proud of his operation. Years later when he was about 13-14, he was a freshman in high school. The school had cut off soda pop from being sold at school and replaced it with healthy options. My brother took this as an opportunity to make money. My parents were out of town this week and we were staying with our grandparents. My brother got my grandpa to buy him a couple cases of Coke, soda, and the next day he headed into school ready to sell. Secretly from his locker, my brother was selling soda to other students for $2.50 a can. Considering my grandpa bought him the 224 packs of Coke, he was estimated to bring in a profit of $120 weekly. That was until a group of seniors threatened to beat him up and then stole the second pack of Coke for themselves. I guess the business got too real for him that he quit, but it was still a crazy impressive operation for someone his age. I'm elementary, it was Legos. No one really had money so we would just trade them. Most of the trading was just harder to get minifigures. I remember trading away a Boba Fett figure from the original set. I wasn't very smart back then. Warheads. Yes, we had a whole cartel for warheads at my school. In elementary school there was a thriving black market for cinnamon toothpicks. These were just toothpicks that had been dipped in cinnamon oil. The kids got the idea cinnamon toothpicks were contraband so they were sold back and forth in little foil packets. There were producers, pushers, consumers. Eventually the teachers and administrators found out about the illicit cinnamon toothpicks and they were banned from school. Notes were sent home to parents warning of this new menace to the welfare of the youth. Some kids got suspended. It got way out of hand. They were just cinnamon toothpicks. All they would do is burn your tongue a little. This is hilarious. Schools freak out about the smallest things out of fear of the parents. I guarantee there was a mom that went in to yell at the teachers because her son ate candy or something. Some people are seriously crazy, and their kids go to school too. Sprite remix for some odd reason. Kids were going crazy over that crap and only one vending machine in the school had it. Eventually got to the point that people were bringing in 6 and 12 packs to sell separately. Kids made these things called hornets that were essentially folded pieces of paper that you would launch with a rubber band, resulting in one of the most painful objects devised by man. It got to a point where kids started putting thumbtacks sharp objects in the hornets. I remember using a spare USB drive and one of those tags used to keep bread fresh to make something I called a scorpion. Of course I never used it on anyone. The whole craze lasted no more than a month. Though, as the school held an entire assembly to put a ban on these things, they claimed the ban was due to kids having an allergy to the latex in the rubber bands, which was obviously not true. Never was sure why they didn't just say that they were dangerous. They were called tweeties at my school. They became such a problem the entire school district banned them with the cost of a trip to A school, bad kids school, for the rest of the semester if you were caught with them. Showing my age here. P. Magazines and VHS tapes. Definitely sugary drinks. Our school had all diet or no calorie drinks after they passed a law to remove sugar from our district. People were selling Arizona's $1 cans from their lockers with a bit of a markup to make money. Woodwind instrument reeds. I went to a high school that catered to the performing arts. Our music program offered us reeds but charged $3 for each one. Being the smartasses that we were, we'd split the cost of a large box and sell it to the other kids. Now there was an idiot who tried to undercut us and we had no idea how as we were already selling at the bare minimum. Found out he was stealing from the teacher's stock as he found a way to get into the cabinet. Primary school. There used to be a small area in the yard that had pebbles, but only a small supply of them. These pebbles would work as currency based on the size of them. People would sell stuff for pebbles. Me and my friend knew where the spots with all the bugs were, so we'd sneak in chalk, draw a circle on the ground and get people to place bets on which bugs would get out of the circle first. It was great fun until some kid was selling gallium aperine. Of course we just called it sticky plant at the time. Had to look up the proper term for this post and got hurt by it, and the teachers ended up not allowing the Pebble commerce. Personally, I think it was great to teach kids what to do with finite amounts of money and was somewhat of a model economy. So we had a few. Mentionables include sodas, TI-83 graphing calculators, RAM sticks, and the best for last, information. Now I'm not gonna pretend that any of this is moral or legal. I would flip my crap if my kids ever do anything half as risky or illegal, and I personally led a completely different life now. Sodas were a limited commodity. The Coke guy came twice a month. We had something like 8 machines on campus and all had Surge and Coke among others. We would put in coinage and pull the plug just after selecting the soda and it beginning to fall. Wait a second and plug it back in. The coinage would return due to the fault and the soda would come out as well. Rinse, wash and repeat. Sell the sodas for 75 cents. 25 cents off market price. Clean out the caffeinated selections incrementally over the weeks. Hide the sodas in lockers. Never caught. TI-83 calculators were stolen constantly. I didn't steal them, but I did obtain them. 25 bones a pop. 40 if you wanted all the games and WAV file playback. No, I'm not kidding. Our school was quite new and had more computers than 3 neighboring school systems combined. Nice new Dell Optiplex desktops. In 10th grade my cohorts and I decided that constantly fricking with the novel NetWare 3.0 system and making the admin run around with her hair on fire was past, and that we would turn increased productivity into a revenue stream. We took one of the 2 sticks of RAM in every single computer that a student would use. Many students only had computers at school. We then would sell sticks of RAM to students who complained of slow speeds when doing their shockwave presentations or when compiling programs at their assigned station, etc. Never caught. Sold out our inventory at $10 a pop. Information. Now this is dirty. We had access to everything on the network at a drop of a hat. Keyloggers had been installed on most computers and several teachers and administrators had been compromised. The network admins also had generated a user account for every single permutation of our studented system that there would be for years. These null accounts were just waiting for someone to log in and set a password. This led to accounts used as repositories for pirated software and movies that we would sell access to. We also stole a set of records that had every single student's schedule, home address, parental info, etc. It was all in one huge binder and the library director and a few administrators were the only copies. Between all of these shenanigans we were quite well informed. I hope this was entertaining to read. Remembering it all sure was. UK. Pencil cases, which were stolen to order from the bad girl in the class who just went shoplifting for fun. Pirated PlayStation 1 games and copied CDs. The most popular was Eiffel 65, blue. When I taught high school, school rules stipulated that students weren't allowed to eat during class. In my first year teaching, I was pretty cool and let kids eat, but soon came to regret it. Students would make an unholy mess in my room, wouldn't clean up after themselves, attract ants, and the food became ridiculously distracting for people who were 17-18 years of age. I would be in the middle of teaching and hear a bag of chips crinkling because one student got a family size bag of hot Takis they were passing around and arguing over. After that first year I followed the school code and also banned food, but was surprised by the sheer volume of snacks I saw around the school. As it turned out, a cheerleading coach was buying cases of chips and such and selling them out of her classroom. Our administration knew about her and looked the other way, but had the balls to make negative remarks during teacher observations like, "A kid in the back of your classroom was eating ho-hos during your lesson." To further muddle things, admin allowed a woman to sell chic filler breakfast, which would draw students into a long line and make them late for class, even though we already had a huge tardy problem. I turned my locker into a fridge by insulating it and putting ice packs on the top and replacing them every day. I sold MT due to people because it was banned from the vending machines. Back in primary school it was definitely Pokemon cards. Had a neighbor evicted when I was in middle school. Looked through their garage, found boxes of old porno mags that were 20+ yo. Ended up hiding some of them at school in a random gym locker and sold them for $5.10 each to friends. More to people I didn't know or like. Make a few $100 before a dumbass got caught looking through one in class a few weeks later. Got pulled into the principal's office, denied everything about selling them and said, "Well, you caught someone. He's trying to get out of trouble. Of course he's point his finger at anyone he thinks will take the fall." Either I was convincing or the principal didn't care. Was let off without getting into trouble. Decided it was best to sell the rest of the magazines outside of school. Made enough off all that to buy myself a SNES and a bunch of games. Mrs. Obama wanted the children of America to eat healthy, and now in the school I teach in there are no salt packets, because too much salt is unhealthy, and real soda has been removed from the vending machines with flavor water drinks and cheese sticks. Kids are selling salt packets for a nickel to other kids. Throw in a couple dollars and they will sneak into our teacher lounge and get a Coke from our vending machine. Sorry Mrs. Obama, kids don't want saltless fries. Yeah, Michelle's plan was a major fail. Our school started serving healthier foods, but a lot of kids just threw it away and ate Little Debbie snacks from home. Michelle arguably made things worse. Back in pre-internet era, we had a friend. His mom owned little shop with mags and newspapers, all sorts. We bought all P mags from him. He used to steal it from the shop. Fortunately for his mother he only had handful of customers. I bet his customers each had a handful themselves. I ran a gum dealing ring out of my locker for 3 years until I was caught right before finals week junior year. My dad worked for Wrigley Gum and would get an endless supply of any type of their gum for free, and we had just stacks and drawers full of it in our house. I started selling the big double packs they used to make for $0.25 and would make around $10 by the time lunch hit. There were times I would get back to my locker to find a group of people waiting for me to sell to them, or would have to carry around my merchandise to classes as I would get stopped in the halls and asked to buy from. When I was caught I was locked in ice for a week and had to write an essay about how I was ruining my school. Funny thing is I never wrote the essay and spent the week after Christmas break in ice basically on vacation, as all I had to do was play Game Boy or read comics since the semester just started and I wasn't in class to learn. You've been spotted by the doggo of studying. Like this video for good grades for the next 2 years. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.